Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Omega's Wednesday night workshop. Tonight's topic is happiness. How do we maintain it? Now, this is a question that has been asked for centuries. Happiness itself, it's amazing. There are so many books out there written on happiness and the idea of how to create happiness, how to fulfill our lives, abundance, and so on. I like the Dalai Lama. He wrote the book, The Art of Happiness. Chris Prentice has the book, Zen, and I think it's called Zen and the Art of Happiness. And then, of course, you have Richard Carson, who he wrote You Could Be Happy No Matter What. All of them, and that's just the top three off the top of my head. There's so many authors out there that discuss the idea of happiness and how to maintain happiness. Now, happiness, if we think about the idea of happiness, it's to nobody's surprise that happiness is not something tangible. It's a very elusive, it's transparent. It's a state of being. Now, there are things that bring us happiness: a car, a house, a job, marriage, a vacation. Those items, objects, and events, all of those bring us to a state of happiness, but they're not happiness. This is why it's hard to maintain happiness. It's something that we can't quite put our finger on, but we know it exists. If happiness is a natural state of being. If you've ever seen a child, a physically healthy child, not one that has colic or ear infections, but a baby that's physically healthy, completely healthy, their natural state of being is happiness. They're smiling, they're giggling, they're just so excited, and a bundle of joy. That's what we usually call infants, a bundle of joy. And happiness can be very contagious. Many people love to hold babies because you feel that experience of happiness. You can share that. So this one is a good idea, that happiness can be something that is shared. It doesn't have to be an individual concept. It can be something that's shared with another human being or an event, and so on and so forth. So the idea of happiness. Now, if this is true, if the natural state of human beings is to be happy, why are we therefore not in a state of eternal bliss? Why is it that we cannot maintain happiness? If it is our true nature to be happy, why can't we maintain our happiness? Again, you could look at any authors and they'll say things like fear. For example, George, his quotation, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So fear prevents me from achieving my happiness. We can have expectations where, I'm not talking about the expectations where you surpass your expectations. I'm talking about those expectations of things that don't even register on your expectation status. Perhaps a date that goes wrong, the purchasing of a house or a job application or an interview, a phone call with a family member. Those expectations can often lead us to a disappointment, we could say, or a lack of happiness. Tragedy can also bring us to not maintain our state of happiness. For example, a child could be extremely happy, and they're playing in the playground, and they're on the monkey bars, and they're laughing and having a wonderful time, and then all of a sudden they fall. And when they fall, they scrape their elbow and cry. That instant, that's how quick we can lose our happiness, like that. Cry, and happiness is gone. So tragedy, of course, a sudden death of a loved one, the loss of a job, a house fire, earthquakes, lava, natural disasters, all of those can bring our state of happiness deplete. It depletes our state of happiness. The environment that we live in can also affect our state of happiness. If you live in a hostile environment or if you work in a very negative environment, that can be very taxing and draining on us. We used to talk about vampires, how a vampire, they don't look like the fangs and I want to make a blood or blah, 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 blah. That's not the vampires. The vampires I'm talking about is the ones who just drain your life energy. When you sit and you talk to them and it's constant negativity, constant upset, constant blah, blah, like heavy. They feel very heavy. That can affect us. A negative environment can also be a very cluttered environment. Let's say that you live in a very cluttered house and you're an individual who likes to have organization. That can destroy happiness. Or if you work in an environment that's very cluttered and disorganized, that can lead us to being unhappy as well. So my environment can definitely make a change and affect an impact on me. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, there was a study done with supermarkets, and they found that people were happier to shop when the lighting was much nicer, the wooden floors were placed in for the produce, because it's something about the wood and the produce that gave you a feel of outdoors and nature. So the elevation of satisfaction, of shopping satisfaction, increased when stores made simple little changes, changing the lighting, making the aisles a little bit wider, and then the way that they have the colors up in the front. Most oftentimes you'll have the floral section in the front because you'll have the flowers and the colors. It's very inviting. There was a study done, it was proven, I really believe this, that I think it's to be true, that our satisfaction has to do with our environment. You can think about this going to the movies or sitting in an airplane. It's not a very happy experience. When I first started flying 20 somewhat years ago, the seats were a little wider and there was a little bit more distance between the chairs. Now, I'm 5'2", and my knees touch the chair in front of me. I can't imagine how uncomfortable it must be for people who were taller than me, that in some airplanes, that it's so condensed. I remember one time I was very fortunate to be able to get season tickets for the Diamondbacks. I went in with a bunch of other people, and the tickets were for box seats. And they were 6 rows from the field. And I remember the gentleman who got these seats said that he had done a lot of research. It was right when the stadium had just opened. And he had done some research, and the chairs that we were sitting in were actually 2.5 inches wider than the other chairs. And there was a bar in between where we were sitting and the next section, which gave additional space. And then, of course, the distance between our row and the row in front of us. I'm going to tell you, that experience for, I think I went to like 20 somewhat games, changed the way that I go to baseball games. I have a very uncomfortable time sitting in other seats besides the back ones. I was spoiled. It was very happy. I was very happy. I love to bring friends with me and say, hey, check out the seats that we're in. That environment really elevated our experience of the game. So environment can really make a contribution to the level of happiness that I attain in my life. Now, I could also mention this, that our happiness can be taken away from us from other people. Funny example, I could be sitting there meditating, being very quiet, or maybe reading, and my husband or my son or my daughter will come and say, ah, and they have a problem, ah, and carry that energy with you. You might have this experience at work, a coworker or your boss comes and carries the ah, and interrupts your state of being. So we can actually be interrupted by other individuals to rob our state of happiness. Now, back to the original question. How do we maintain our state of happiness? Through my studies and research and throughout the years, I've gleaned some tools, techniques that you can implement to assist us in maintaining that state, that inner state of being. The idea would be that if I can maintain an inner state of being, no matter what anybody says to me, no matter what anybody does, no matter whatever event is unfolding in front of me, I can maintain a state of happiness. Now, happiness can also be equated to peace, love, joy. There's many different versions, but I like the idea of happiness. You know, that giggly, smiley feeling that you feel when you feel happy. Contentment comes into play as well. Now, the tricks, techniques, tools that I've discovered along the way. Not new, we all know this, but it's nice to have a good, gentle reminder. The first one is gratitude. Everyone understands that when we have gratitude, it puts us in a mindset of appreciation. When we have a sense of gratitude, it puts us in a mindset of positive and being grateful for the things that I've acquired. So then it puts us in connection with the law of attraction and abundance. Now, the problem with gratitude is so many people understand the concept of gratitude, it becomes very mechanical and automatic, where we don't feel the gratitude. I know some people that can just rattle off a list. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for the sun. I'm grateful for the moon. I'm grateful for the planet. I'm grateful for the house. Now that's a beginning. It truly is a beginning. But to maintain the happiness, I like to use the phrase, the idea of gratitude with essence. I'm grateful for my spouse. Well, why? Because I love the way he looks at me. I love the way we laugh at our inside jokes. I'm grateful that he maintains the pool so I don't have to. That's what I'm looking for. It's gratitude with essence. And I think it's a great start to do at least 7. Every day, come up with 7 items. Doesn't mean it could be the same ones over and over again, whatever. But the idea is not to be mechanical. By filling that moment of gratitude with essence, it empowers us. It gives us that, for lack of a better word, vibration energy of happiness. When we feel gratitude, we really do feel happy for what we have. Holy mackerel, look what we have. I'm very grateful for the life that I've been given. Again, the idea would be gratitude with essence. That's the first thing that we must do. The second thing is the present moment. This is a very difficult assignment. Staying in the present moment, we're easily distracted. There's interruptions. We have to multitask. But the concept would be, when I stay in the present moment, I'm aware. I love the idea of be aware versus beware. Again, that connects back to what George said, everything I want is on the other side of fear. Beware, that's fearful. Beware, and I have fear. Or, in the present moment, I can be aware. And when I be aware, I'm aware of the moment. It's the idea of enjoying what I'm experiencing. People who go wine tasting, same thing. You taste the wine, you swish it around in your mouth. You don't just guzzle it down. You savor the flavors inside of your mouth. Same thing with a cup of coffee, that you just let that coffee just fill the aromas, the smell, and just let it settle in before we swallow it. My favorite, ice cream. As a matter of fact, there's often the idea that ice cream and chocolate make us happy. Well, science does prove that chocolate does release endorphins, which can give us the sense of happiness. And I did read research where they said that, I found this intriguing, ice cream cools us down, which slows our body, which then lowers our stress level because we're now relaxed, because we start to slow down. I found that quite curious, interesting, but I love the idea of ice cream. I mean, how many times when you don't feel good and you want some ice cream, and it seems to pick up our spirits. I did read one who said that both ice cream and chocolate are bad for us, and because human nature is to have things that aren't good for us, that's why we like it. Either way, but the idea is to enjoy it, to enjoy those moments. When I enjoy the present moments, I'm happy. If I'm looking out at the sunset or the sunrise, or if I'm listening to a piece of music or watching somebody dancing, that brings me happiness because I'm in the moment. Happiness, which I really do believe exists in the present moment. Therefore, the more times I practice being in the present moment, the greater my capacity to maintain happiness. That's number 2, is being in the present moment. Number 3, beauty. Search for beauty. Surround yourself with beauty. Now remember, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. I remember a couple of years ago, my son had a video game, and he's like, "Oh, this is so beautiful, you have to come and see it." It was odd for my teenage son to say a video game is beautiful, so I went and looked at it, and I didn't quite see beauty the way he sees beauty. And it was like a worn, torn rocks wall falling down, desert landscaping, like chaos, smoke flying around, and you know, some of the things that you would see in a movie. And I looked at him and said, why do you think this is beautiful? He goes, oh, it's so lifelike and so realistic. So for him, that was beautiful. And I was very mindful not to turn my eyes and go, oh God, but to recognize he sees beauty. And that's what's important. So remember, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. But the concept is when we surround ourselves with beauty, we are filled with beauty, because beauty brings us happiness. My flowers, this is my favorite flower. This is called a purple iris. Now a purple iris, it's truly not the most attractive flower, like a blooming, it looks like wow. But the thing I love about this is the contrast between the purple, the yellow, and the green. The colors just pop. I think, to me, this is the most beautiful flower that I've ever seen. I think it has no aroma, but it's the colors that capture my attention. So have flowers around that really capture the beauty, that make you feel beautiful. Light, there are people who love to have light. Make sure you have big windows and make sure you can see outside. Going out in nature, surrounding yourself, your beauty in nature is another wonderful thing that we can do. The other idea with beauty is to make sure that you're engaging in positive, beautiful conversations. One thing I love about Facebook, they did you can unfollow someone. They still be your friend, but you can unfollow them. I love that, because during the political drama techniques, or when there's some hot topic, people are like, I just hit the little unfollow button and I don't have to see the post. And when the drama or event passes, then I re-click them back on. I hang on to them because for the next point that I'm going to go to, but I like the idea that you can remove yourself from the drama. Never get engaged in the negative commentaries going back and forth. Blah, 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 blah. When it's emotion filled, oh, that's such a dangerous place to be. That knocks us out of happiness so fast. Therefore, keep yourself surrounded by beauty. Read beautiful books. Listen to beautiful music. Remember, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Watch beautiful movies in the news. The news is very funny. My husband and I, we laugh about this. I laugh about it. He loves the news. If he could have CNN, Fox News on 24/7, he would. I am not particularly a news individual. I find it so draining and depressing. However, there's a news station out here, 10 minutes. The top 10 minutes, you get all the stories you need to know in 10 minutes, including traffic, weather, blah, blah, blah. I love that idea. Quick little update, and then I'm done. So I don't need to hang on to it, but I stay informed. That works for me. That may not work for you. You might actually find beauty in the news. As a matter of fact, when I'm watching the news, if there is an upsetting or anguished story, I will distract myself and say, oh, that's a beautiful dress she has on, or that tie really compliments his eyes. I'll make some contribution there when it's unsettling for me personally. So that's the idea of having beauty around me. And the last thing is to be of service. To be of service is a place that brings happiness. Now, it doesn't mean like making a contribution financially, although that can do it, but it's the concept of making a contribution. Volunteering, if you have the ability to go and volunteer. But even if you don't, you can make a contribution wherever you are. One of the greatest things that I love that George did teach us was when you enter into a place, you should always leave it better than when you first found it. So he tasked us, about 20 years ago, he gave us the task of, when you go into a public restroom, see if you can make it more beautiful than when you left. Now, most people are like, yeah, but there are ways that you can do it. Almost every time I go into a restroom, there's paper towels on the floor because the person didn't get them into the trash. Or the sink looks filled with water splattered, or the soap spilled. It takes 2 seconds to just take a paper towel and rinse out the soap, rinse off the top, pick up the paper towels off the floor, put them in there. I'm not meaning scrub the toilets, that's not it. But if there's a toilet that hadn't got flushed, just reach your leg in there and flush it down. There are things that you can do to make a place beautiful. One time I was in a very nice bathroom in a very nice hotel. Everything was in order. There really wasn't anything I could do except the pile of paper towels that were sitting in between the two sinks kind of was askew. So I just folded them nicely and gently and put them on the corner. That's all I could do, but it makes a difference. And remember, being of service is without recognition. I love the idea of pay it forward. Nobody knows where it came from. The silent contribution, Secret Santa style. I think that's beautiful, to putting yourself in a position where you're making a contribution. Sometimes this just means listening, intently listening. When we listen to individuals and they feel valuable or they feel like they're being heard, their self-confidence increases, their self-esteem increases, and that connection to another human being increases. I mentioned my son, so he loves the Marvel comic universes, loves them. One of the first movies I actually went when I met them was we went to go see one of the comics. I don't even remember, the Avengers. I think it was the very first Avengers movie. Anyway, so through the years, I've been listening to him talk to me about all the different comics and the people, and I had a very hard time differentiating between the DC comics and the Marvel comics, blah, blah, blah. I sat. He gave me a list and said, here's the order of the movies you need to watch them in, blah, 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 and I did. Now, it's not like that's the type of movie I would watch, but I watched them because it's something that he wanted and it involves him. Now, I can sit and have a conversation with him about Thor, Iron Man, the Winter Soldier, Nick Fury. I can name them. And I can have a conversation. Does that enhance my life? Not really, but it makes a contribution to him. It's something that he does, that he feels important about, and that he shared with me, so I reciprocate it back with him. And that brings happiness. We have a great relationship because I listen, the idea of actively, intuitively listening to another human being. Another thing that we can do is pointing out beauty to people. Oh, look at that beautiful sunset. Oh, look at that man doing that gesture. Oh, look, I love the Good News Network, one of my favorite websites to go to, that you get a daily story. I read today the idea of this one kid. He went to go pick up, a teenager, he went to go pick up his mom downtown Austin, I think it was, in Texas, and there was an elderly woman sitting in her wheelchair waiting for the bus to come, and the sun was beating down on her. He went in the house, got an umbrella, came back out and stood with this woman for an hour and a half with the umbrella covering her, shading her from the sun. How beautiful is that? And they sat and talked, and they formed a really good relationship, and I think what it said at the very end of the article was, every time he sees her out there now, he goes, gets his umbrella, and they sit and just have a conversation, like it's an opportunity to connect with another human being. To me, I think that's beautiful. So find ways of being of service or making a contribution to other individuals. This brings us happiness. Not only does it bring us happiness, but it also, I wish I had the numbers on this one, but the concept is that when you do a kind act, it increases your endorphins and it increases the endorphins of another individual. And those people who witness that act increases their endorphins as well. So there's so many people that we're increasing or making contributions to. Therefore, back to my original statement. How do I maintain happiness? 4 simple tools. Number 1, gratitude with essence. Number 2, being in the present moment, enjoying the moments. Number 3, beauty. Surround yourself with beauty. And number 4, be of service. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I look forward to seeing you the next time we meet. Have a wonderful night. Bye now.